People learning in 4 universities, and this is part of what you're talking about. We have in studio with us Lena Onyango, who is a partner tax and exchange control at CDH Kenya. Lena, good morning and thank you for joining us. And we also have nominated Senator Honorable Crystal Asige. Mheshimiwa, good morning and thank you for being with us on the New Dawn today. And so the top story on the dailies is, plans to splurge 1.6 billion shillings for the renovation of state houses and lodges. And this is part of a plan, a 12-year plan actually, that is set to see Kenya spend about 11 billion shillings in the refurbishment of these installations. However, like Vivian says, there seems to be an issue with prioritization when we hear and see headlines like this. Lena, what do you make of the fact that on one end we're spending 1.6 billion shillings to renovate state houses, and we're also cutting the budget, and it's set to cripple learning in universities, a school feeding program, and several other core social, services and needs for the country?
Michelle, I do agree with the sentiments by Vivian. I think it's about time that the government prioritizes on the things that are essential for Kenyans. I mean, as it is, we are being subjected to very high taxes, and as we can see with the new finance bill, there's a proposal to introduce additional taxes. So what is the government doing with these funds that is collecting from Kenyans, and how is that improving the lives of Kenyans? I mean, renovating the State House, well, if we had the excess funds, yes, but as it is, we are stretched. I mean, the president himself said we are stretched, and hence the high taxes. So why not prioritize on the things that would essentially alleviate effects of poverty? There's education, there's healthcare, essential services that the government needs to provide to Kenyans. Where is the priority?
It's interesting when you see reports like this, and when you take a look at page 2 of the paper, the report here says that students who will begin their 3rd, 4th and 5th as well as 6 years of studies in September in 4 universities are at risk of dropping out after the National Treasury failed to allocate funds for their studies. And this is the 2024-2025 budget policy statement, which had allocated the University of Nairobi 1.7 billion, Moi University 1.3, University of Eldoret, as well as the University of Kabianga. But when the budget estimates were published, the 4 universities had zero allocation for their thousands of students. And it's a very interesting report. Honorable Asige, what do you make of, first of all, the budget cuts in very critical ministries and dockets?
I think that it's very irresponsible. Personally, I am very disappointed by especially this year's proposals, because last year already we had a hard time accepting, and many people opposed the changes that were made in the current financial year that we're in. Now looking into the next financial year, we are wondering, where do you want us to go as Kenyans? What do you want us to do? Is this an attempt for making Kenyans want to cross the border and look for life elsewhere? Or how are you making these types of pronouncements in the finance bill and the budget proposals, and then expecting Kenyans will be happy and they'll thrive and they'll grow the economy? It's absolutely impossible. You cannot have both your cake and eat it. And I think that critical dockets, I'm not too sure who sits down with the president and his advisors and thinks, let's cut down on education budgets, let's cut down on gender budgets, let's cut down on budgets with regards to persons with disabilities, and then increase budgets on renovations of State House. That, for me, the math is not mathing at all. And it makes me wonder, what exactly is the long-term plan? Because everyone has a plan. When the government asked for this job, they said that they had a plan in the manifesto, and in fact, cutting down on education budgets is against what it says in the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. Right now, we know that 4.9 billion approximately was being spent on school feeding programs, and that currently is at zero in the current budget proposals, which means that kids who rely on their 1 or 2 or 3 meals at school, who don't get it at home, who need it to be able to concentrate. We all know that kids, there is a huge relation between having a full stomach and being able to concentrate in school, right? And if you don't have that, then what are you trying to tell our primary school kids, our early learning institutions about how we are wanting to take care of our young people, our babies, basically, to be able to thrive in their education? It's incredibly disappointing. It's, in fact, I can't even imagine any other government who would cut out of everything a school feeding program from 4.9 billion to 0, just for no reason, without any explanation to schools. And then now, like you're saying, even university education is also going to get a cut. And I just wish that, I mean, all I can see, on a light note, all I can see about the 1.6 billion for renovation is that they're renovating State House, getting it ready for Azimio when we come into government in 2027. So we are happy that they're going to give us new couches and new furniture and new buildings and all that. But other than that, I don't see why. There is no other reason.
All right, and we'd like to hear from you as you watch what you think about some of the stories making headlines this morning. When you take a look at the Standard newspaper, at the top page there, TSC threatens to sack striking intern teachers. And again, takes us back to the issue of prioritization, ladies. And so it's on page 4 of the Standard. And so the Teacher Service Commission has threatened to sack intern teachers who failed to report to work since schools reopened for the second term. And the bone of contention here is that the Labour and Employment and Labour Relations Court last month ruled that the internship program was illegal, solely because of unequal pay for equal work. However, the court went ahead and then issued a stay order, allowing TSC to continue employing the teachers in the internship for the next 3 months. And so the intern teachers say, no, we are going to stay put. Now, TSC says it will only negotiate with these interns should they lose the appeal in court to overturn the ruling that, you know, the entire situation was illegal. But Vivian, again, when it comes to prioritization, schools have just reopened. In fact, the school reopening was postponed and pushed forward by 2 weeks, but we're still caught flat-footed with issues of intern teachers, who are the backbone of junior secondary school. What are your thoughts on this?
Michelle, I've said this and I'll say it again. What I see here is just a lack of leadership, incompetent people in charge of very serious dockets. I think the government forgets that they are in government, in leadership, because the people have given them the mandate. And if they continue to oppress us, I mean, it'll come a time where, you know, we will say enough is enough. The mandate you have and the responsibilities you have to manage collectively the resources of Kenya are because the people of Kenya have granted you, you know, the mandate to take care of business. But if you continually fail in each and every sector, I don't know if there's any sector in government that's working right now. It's just, it's a red card. It's like a football game where, you know, you have a bad tackle and the ref gives you a red card. It's a red card on the government. It's even worse that just the other day we had news reports of these economic advisors of the president earning millions. You're earning millions on the back of poor Kenyans, you know? It's ridiculous that the president cannot see this. I think even if you have an incompetent team, even if you have poor advisors, the buck stops with the president. At some point, you need to stand up and say, hey guys, you know, there needs to be a shift, a change. But I'm actually really disappointed that all the promises he campaigned on, he's literally reneging on like literally everything that's basic. He came on the platform of hustler. But now the hustler ndio anaumia zaidi. It's like the elite are the ones who are okay. You know, it's the people who are mwananchi wa kawaida ndio anaumia. So I would really, I don't know who the president would listen to, but I would really urge him to rethink. I heard him say on TV the other day that he wants to get Kenya to a place where our taxes are between 20 to 22%, and I'm like, oh my God. With this kind of corruption and hemorrhaging of money and resources, absolutely not. I think the citizens actually need to just get to a place where we're like, we're not going to do this anymore. If it takes, I don't know, a revolt, a revolution, something drastic needs to give, because we cannot continue like this. Like, it cannot be business as usual. You make money off of us, you enrich yourselves and your families, and at the expense of Kenyans, with no consequence, no. It's about time we started seeing some actions. Actions, if you're a CS and you're indicted for, corruption or fraudulent dealings, can we see, repercussions? Can we see repercussions and not just gloss over things and sweep things under the carpet?
They say many times when the middle class is uncomfortable, then there may be more action from the citizenry. But Lena, when we began, you mentioned how Kenyans pay very high taxes, a lot of taxes, and I don't think Kenyans have a problem so much with paying taxes, but is it commensurate to the services, the public services they're receiving from the government? Now, when you take a look at, education, for example, and TSC is now threatening to sack teachers, but Kenyans pay taxes and expect that there'll be, good quality education, especially in the free, school system. What do you make of Kenya's tax practices and whether Kenyans understand how much they can demand in exchange for paying taxes?
So on the first question of what do I make of Kenyans' tax practices, I mean, I do agree with you. There's a bit of, I would call it apathy. Kenyans are not willing to pay taxes. I don't think Kenyans have a problem with paying taxes. So long as the funds that are collected as tax revenue are accounted for, are used for whatever purpose they were levied on them. For instance, let's look at the motor vehicle tax. What is the spirit behind it? Is it that there's combustion and therefore environmental issues? And the question I ask myself, the funds that will come out of, that will be raised from motor vehicle taxation, will that now be channeled towards, environmental conservation and sustainability, or will all these funds go into one big basket and to be used for other things that Kenyans are clearly not happy about, raising issues of accountability? And therefore, as Kenyans, from the field, even from the business community, it's all about surviving. Kenyans are now surviving. There's a lot of uncertainty. You invest in a certain sector, you don't know what tax policies will come next year. You've invested billions of shillings. Like Crystal said, are you supposed to pull out to another jurisdiction that now gives you a favorable tax jurisdiction? I mean, there has to be a level of certainty, of stability in terms of the tax framework. I think there's a lot of conversations and honest conversations that need to be had around this. And key on it is accountability. The government needs to account for the tax revenues. It's not enough to raise it and say we are in debt, we need to have a high GDP. How is this fund, or how are these funds being used to, in short, to improve the lives of Kenyans? Kenyans, I don't believe, have a problem with paying high taxes. I mean, if you look at the West, they have very high tax obligations, but children go to public schools, they use public transport, decent housing. I don't think they have a problem with paying high taxes. So if you want to get there as a country, then something needs to be done. All
right. Honorable Asige, your thoughts on the fact that TSC is now threatening to sack striking intern teachers? The conversation is that now TSC has 3 months, according to the court, to discuss with Treasury and see if the funds will be available or come to a consensus with the teachers. And when that happens, and you see headlines like, 1.6 billion shillings on state houses, is it no wonder that then Kenyan workers are unable to believe, even, because the government does not really follow court rulings like the one given to TSC?
I think that TSC have a bit of confidence at the moment, because even in the current budget proposals, they have an increase in funding to them. So they're feeling a little bit confident. I don't think that they understand the repercussions fully of trying to sack intern teachers, because we need teachers, whether they're interns or whether they are fully trained teachers. We need them in schools, right? And currently, TSC, I'm having, there's many issues that I've seen that I'm having even on my desk with regards to teachers coming to my office and wanting to take put petitions toward TSC, matters of union fees, matters of, like you say, interns being absorbed properly and being paid. There are many issues with regards to TSC. And even this week, we were supposed to have a meeting with the CEO of TSC in the Senate. She was supposed to appear in front of the Labor and Social Protection Committee to answer for many of these questions with regards to teachers with disabilities, but she didn't turn up. And neither did we get any kind of apology or reason for not showing up. And this is the third invitation that we have given her for, and her team for matters to do with teachers in the country. And we did not have that meeting this year. So you see, this is why I'm saying about this matter of confidence, you know, a bit of chest pumping perhaps somewhere in those corridors, in those offices, whereby it's like, okay, well, we have the backing of the executive because, you know, we've been given particular increase in our budget. So these other two small questions, perhaps they're not really of interest to us because we have the ear of the president. I don't know exactly the conversations that are happening inside, but they will, at the end of the day, end up hurting our children. That is the point. And intern teachers are very important. For example, in special needs schools or in schools where there is inclusive education, for kids with disabilities, you have to have support teachers, for example, in the classroom. Your substantive teacher at the front of the class, and then you have to have your support teacher, who often are interns, right? Who are going around the classroom, giving extra help to a learner with disability, etc. And if they're not there, then you will see the direct impact to these kids who have disabilities, or kids who perhaps just need extra support. They don't have disabilities, but just need extra support in the classroom. So you will see the effect of it, even though they're feeling like right now, because it's a fresh court ruling, there are no consequences as yet. But as you continue months down the line, if they continue this way, you will absolutely be able to see how that will affect our learners. And also, I think that maybe they're looking at what happened with the doctors and taking some kind of notes. Perhaps there is some kind of a comparative study being done between the doctor's strike, and now they're like, okay, well, if the Ministry of Health were able to do 1, 2, 3 and demand for 2, 4, 5, 6, then perhaps we should go the same way. And I don't think that any ministry, any institution, any MDA in general should start going down this route of reducing the salaries of their core service providers in this country, right? Because that is a huge mistake. Right. Don't mess with doctors, don't mess with teachers, you understand? Because they're the ones who actually keep our country moving. And I don't know why there's this sudden sort of, just big-headedness with different institutions in the country. And I feel like it's very disappointing. And at the end of the day, like all of us have been saying, it's our kids and our people who are going to suffer the most.
All right, and of course, Kenyans must demand accountability. Let's take a break here on the New Dawn. That is part of what's making headlines on the dailies this morning. On the front page of the Daily Nation, an interesting report there on Kenya's Haiti mission. 200 police officers are set to fly out to Haiti next week as Kenya plans to send about 1,000. That is a debate that is likely to shape up in the next week as this process takes place. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we take a look at the week in review. The top stories: the Finance Bill 2024, the one-man, one-shilling debate as well, which is gaining momentum across the country, as well as other news that have been making headlines this week. Do speak to us on what stood out for you as well. The hashtag is New Dawn. You can speak to us on X at K24 TV. Do stay with us.